Jada is back at it, here to give everyone my very first Ozark Season 4 episode review video. Before I get to that, though, pretty important, if you're not caught up to the point where I am, you're rewatching or watching Ozark, or you're just not entirely sure, then you definitely need to take the initiative and pay attention to the episode's title, which of course I'll mention as well as put in the description for you. If that happens to be the case and you're not caught up, it would be my recommendation that you don't watch this video any further, simply to avoid any potential spoilers. This would be Ozark Season 4, Episode 1. The title of this episode is called The Beginning of the End. This would be my review, reaction, recap after just finishing watching the episode. We start off with the birds driving in the van, talking about them talking to the FBI and moving. And it seems like this is something that takes place in the future. And then there's a truck that's in their lane, and Marty almost hits the truck, so he has to swerve out of their way. And then he eventually goes off the side of the road and then rolls over, and the van is pretty much totaled, and there's no movement from anybody in the van, at least at that moment. And then we go to the events that happen right after Season 3 of Ozark, where we have a party or get-together at Navarro's taking place right after Helen was killed. You have Marty and Wendy are trying to wash the body parts and blood of Helen's off their face and hair. And then Navarro calls Marty and Wendy celebrities because due to them sending the U.S. government after the Laguna's gang. And then Navarro's nephew Javi wants something done about Darlene Snell. Navarro wants the birds' influence to have him be able to walk away free. So Navarro doesn't want any charges or anything brought on him. And then he mentions that if Javi were to find this out, he would want to kill Navarro for doing that. Wendy says it's not doable, and that is why Navarro chose them. Ruth goes back to the motel, or hotel, whatever you want to call it, where she used to work at, where she met the birds, and she wants to buy the motel. She's offering 10% above a market price, and she says she wants to own a place in the town. Now, apparently, Ruth does get the hotel there because she walks out and says, oh, by the way, Lauren, who's the one that fired her when she was working there, you're fired. So now Ruth owns the hotel. And then Darlene, Ruth, and Wyatt agree to terms of the businesses. Ruth will get 25%, and then the remaining 75% will be shared between Darlene and Wyatt. Now, Jonah goes to Ruth and gives her Ben's ashes, and Ruth, she goes to the bird's office eventually, and Charlotte has her escorted out. I thought Charlotte would play a really big role in this season. We'll see if that remains to be the case, but I feel like she'll take over for what Ruth did for the birds. And then Marty and Wendy, they arrive back home. Jonah confronts Wendy about her killing or having been killed. A divorce lawyer shows up at the birds looking for Helen. Jonah mentions to ask her daughter, while Wyatt thanks Darlene for the generous cut of the business. And then Agent Maya Miller gets made an FBI field agent instead of her thing with the accounting department. And then when she's done with maternity leave, she is to stay in the Ozarks, apparently. There's also a scene with Maya Miller talking with the agent who was involved with Petty. I can't remember his name. I think that was him, although it didn't look exactly like I remember him looking like. But apparently he's been suspended and taken off because of he reported a confession that wasn't true by Helen, if that's who I think it is. So that's one thing I didn't really write down because I couldn't remember the character's name. I only watched the last episode of Season 3 last night. Otherwise, it's been since that premiered that I watched that. So I can't remember everybody's name. Sorry about that. And then Marty and Wendy warn Darlene and Wyatt and Ruth to not start the heroin business again. Ruth is worried that Helen is now dead, and the divorce lawyer ends up talking with the sheriff, who that goes nowhere at the moment. And then he also goes to Helen's house, and he looks at Helen's surveillance system and sees what Jonah did to Helen. He didn't do anything to her, but he had a gun drawn on her. And then Marty and Wendy tell Jonah and Charlotte that Navarro wants to be free. And then the divorce lawyer shows up at the Birds again. He shows them a picture of Jonah threatening Helen with the gun. And then Jonah leaves and goes to Ruth. He offers to help Ruth with laundering money. Javi comes to check out the casino boat. So things are getting interesting with this Javi character. Just switching up my notes here. And then Charlotte tells Jonah to get his shit together. He tells her she needs to get some opinions of her own. And then Javi goes to the Birds. 3 and Wyatt are swimming at the motel pool while Ruth is sitting there on the beach chair or the lawn chair. And then Jonah shows up and tells Ruth that he'll launder money for her, or he'll launder their money, and that means for a celebration. And then we find Sheriff Nix. He actually goes to Helen's house. Javi is there. That's where he's staying. And he ends up shooting and killing Sheriff Nix. And then Jonah witnesses Marty and Javi, because he showed back up at the Birds' house. He witnesses Marty and Javi putting Sheriff Nix's body in the Birds' van. And that is how the episode ends. So, a pretty good premiere of Ozark Season 4. I mean, it was okay. I would prefer a lot more, but I understand it's the first episode of the season, so you're not going to have such a crazy thing. I would like to know in this season what the status of Rachel is. I was really furious that Rachel was not in Season 3 of Ozark, as she was my favorite character, at least for a time being. Now I like Charlotte a lot, so those are my opinions on that. As far as the score of this episode, I see it's rated in the 9s. I'm going to give it an 8.6. I mean, that crash at the beginning was crazy. I wonder how that's all going to play out. And then, of course, the stuff with Sheriff Nix getting killed, that was interesting. So I'm going to give it an 8.6 out of 10. And I'm going to give Jonah the character of the episode because he had more to do in this, it seems. So you've heard what I had to say about the episode. Now, of course, it's your turn. If you're a fan of Ozark, if you're a fan of JDub TV, or if you like any of the content that I'm producing on the channel, and to help out with the YouTube algorithm, if you could go ahead and smash that like button, that would be greatly appreciated. If you want, you can share this video with anybody you know or any of your social media platforms. Don't forget to sound off in the comment section about your thoughts on Ozark Season 4. I've only watched the first episode, and I don't know when I'm going to watch the second one. Might be really late tonight because I'm going to Milwaukee for a basketball game, Bulls-Bucks. Let me know your thoughts on this episode at least. Who was your character of the episode? What would you score it? Or standout character of the episode? And last, but certainly not least, don't forget to hit that sub button, subscribe to the channel, join the team, show your damn support, and be a part of something special. And JDev will return.